Today I want to talk to you about one of the biggest blind spots that I have in my agency, one of the biggest gaps in the content that we've been producing on our YouTube channel and abroad, and what I think ends up being one of the most important proficiencies in the future of digital marketing. It's creative, and we have historically not been very good at creative. As a matter of fact, I kind of flaunted it, which we're going to get to in a minute because this becomes a meta discussion. I've told people for years and years and years that we're a data-driven agency and the creative is secondary. There's a quote by Anik Singhal that I love to parrot. He says that digital marketing isn't a creative endeavor. It's a data-driven endeavor with some creative elements. And historically, that has actually been true. I'll tell clients on sales calls, like, look, you're not going to be impressed by our creative. All we do is we go through and we find competitors or organizations that are analogous to yours. We look at what they're running, we copy it, and modify it to suit your needs, and then we run it. And what's interesting is, if you take a creative agency and you have them create all of your ad collateral, and then you have us create all your ad collateral, you're going to like theirs better, but ours are going to win. And I think it's because Google Ads is a direct response game. So we're not top of the funnel trying to build awareness and build a brand. We're just like somebody who's at the bottom of the funnel and ready to buy. It's high commercial intent. So it ends up being more data driven. However, with Google's major changes, Flock being the big one that I still don't understand why we're all not freaking out about, the emphasis on creative is going to grow on an exponential scale. As a matter of fact, Ryan Deiss, who is the founder and CEO of Digital Marketer, I'm in a Facebook group where somebody said, what do y'all think is going to happen now that we're losing data, the big Facebook change, the big Google change? And there was, all these people running through with, weird prognosticative dissertations, and Ryan jumps in and goes, may the best copywriter win. And it was so profound because I was like, he is absolutely freaking right. We're losing our ability to target, to track, to follow people around, to personalize, and it's going to place a massive emphasis on the creative. And we're all going to have to get better at the creative. So I've done a couple of things at our agency. One, we hired a full-time. We've actually had a handful of content writers on staff. I've got a gal that runs our marketing communication team's Patience, who's absolutely brilliant. But we've never had that team dedicated to the client creative. We've always had the ad specialists producing the creative based off of data. So it's been a data-driven approach. Now, I'm not going to abandon the data-driven approach because I still think that there's brilliance there. But what I am going to do is we hired a young man. His name's Brian, and he's a phenomenal copywriter, direct response copywriter, and he and I are working together to build the SOP within our agency and our organization to make sure that we're placing a massive emphasis on creative where we haven't in the past. And we hired a data scientist most recently who's going to help us really distill from the creative what's working and what's not. So I'm excited about both of those, and I'm going to be bringing a lot of that to you, so just giving it to you if and when it's appropriate. But the catalyst for this discussion was this article from Google that I'm going to share. This is one of the best, they put out a lot of fluff. A lot of their content is just, trying to push Google Ads, and it doesn't feel very applicable, especially for small businesses, but this is one of the best pieces of content I've seen them produce in a long time. It's Alistair and Cian, I can't pronounce their names, I'm so sorry, went through and shared their findings of what they're calling the messy middle, which I really love from a paradigm perspective. And so you can see they say we ran 96,000 simulations with 12,000 shoppers across 12 products to understand what makes brands and their ads stand out on a search results page. Super cool. Super, super, super cool. And they found these behavioral science principles that impacted the efficacy of the creative. And what's interesting is, they'll seed in a couple of things. Takeaway, you don't have to appear at the top of the page to be considered. Just being present can make a difference. First of all, if you read their study, I don't know how they draw that conclusion. I can tell you, as somebody who runs a significant number of search ads, the closer you get to the top, the more effective your advertising ends up being. Now, that doesn't mean that you just go turn on absolute tops impression share and then you call it a day. But this is Google trying to seed in the idea that the remainder of their inventory is still of value. So just with all things Google, be really careful when they say crap like this, because this is so self-serving it's not funny. Is there truth to it? Sure. But just remember, follow the money. Remember where it is that they stand to benefit, because I don't buy that as an overarching narrative at all. When shoppers in our study were searching for moisturizers, we introduced their second favorite brand into search results, and it immediately captured 31% of ad clicks. So what they did is they introduced the shopper's favorite brand, second favorite brand, and then a faux brand. And they used these principles, the power of free, authority bias, social proof, framing, and costly signaling. And they do a really good job of showing you how they used them. And there's this really fun little graphic that walks through each of them. So social proof, UK's favorite for 18 to 24-year-old solo travelers. Costly signaling, sponsor of Channel 4's Travel Man. The example they give in costly signaling, by the way, is like, the Super Bowl ad. Power of free 20-page hotel destination guide. Authority bias, Lonely Planet favorite. Framing. Our rooms are cozy, and then they go on to talk about the pratfall effect, which is admitting a flaw can humanize a brand and increase likability. I admit my falls all the time. That's why I'm so likable. But as evidenced by the fact that I'm like, man, we're not the best at creative, and historically we haven't had to be. Now all of a sudden, with what's coming down the pipe, I think in 2022 it's going to be the year of data-driven marketers moving more towards creatives. But I really love, and here's them again, even if you're not at the top of the search page, so you can see what Google's doing here. They've got an agenda to push, so be really careful with their agenda. But what I'd strongly recommend is go dig into this study. They have this thing called the messy middle, and I really love this paradigm, because we always look at sales as a funnel, because that's the way that marketers are taught. Oh, the sales funnel. And they sort of dispel with that myth. And if you download this report, this is such an amazing read, y'all. It's 98 pages, so it's not small, but there's so much here to unpack, and I'll show you a couple of my favorite points. And they make this point a couple of times. The first one is, around 2009, there was an inflection point where consumer interest in cheap, you can see people looking for cheap begins to drop, and people looking for best begins to increase. And right around 2009, people didn't want the cheapest anymore, they wanted the best. I need to pause here. What? That is huge. That's such an important paradigm to assume, because I can't tell you how many of my clients, and we're guilty of it too, I can't tell you how many brands continue to fight on price. It's not where the battle is, y'all. People will pay more. They'll pay a lot more for a better product. And it's up to you to show them how and why your product is better. And these behavioral principles that these folks put forward do a really good job of helping you identify exactly when and how and where you can show that your product is better. Authority bias, framing, social proof, costly signaling. One of the things in their report that they said is offering a free product, even a product that's unrelated to the product they're buying, substantially impacts purchase decisions. And you can do this with info products. Info products, they're scalable. So if somebody's buying a bottle of shampoo or whatever, and then you send them with a free a PDF download on the perfect way to use shampoo, like, that didn't cost you anything. And I'm using that as an example, by the way, because it's one that I saw a client use with success. And you think to yourself, like, I already know how to use shampoo. People like the PDF. They like the download. And there's a bunch of cool little pro tips in there, like, root to tip, only do it every other day, whatever, that they wouldn't have known otherwise. And so they got a lot of really good responses. So I think this is just freaking amazing to see. And then they've got a lot of visualizations, but my favorite graph of all time, first of all, this is really cool. A brief history of the evolution of marketing models. AIDA, it reminds me of the old Glenn Ross monologue with Alec Baldwin. But like, they walk through the way that we used to think people purchase, and we're all the way up to Zmot, Google's zero moment of truth. Here's their messy middle. So somebody starts, goes through all this junk, and then makes a purchase. And they do a better job, I think, of contextualizing that. So the trigger, the exploration and evaluation process is super messy. It's not a funnel. It's like, they're bouncing off all over the place, and then they purchase. And hold on, where's the graphic that I really liked? Give me a second, I'm so sorry. I thought it was more accessible than this. Maybe it's not. Well, there was a really cool graphic that you're going to find, and I'm not going to make you... There it is. Bam. I love this. It's like somebody, the catalyst for the search, and then they're looking for what's the best product, reviews on the product, what is cheap if there is cheap, any ideas on how to use it, deals, difference between... So, and if you think about your own purchasing behavior, this is so much truer to life than the funnel. The funnel is so linear, and it's a lie. And if advertisers really think about the messy middle, I think it helps us. First of all, it lends a lot of credence to things like remarketing, display, staying in front of people. But second of all, it makes a lot of sense that the new emphasis is on creative, because now in your creative, you need to hit a bunch of different notes in a bunch of different ways over time. So I think this continues to speak to the power and the importance of creative. And again, some of the trends that they're identifying, I think, are really impactful, really interesting. You can see like cyclical trends, changes in what it is that people are searching for. So I don't know. I really loved this report. I thought that it was, outside of Google pushing its freaking weird ass agenda, there's a lot of value here. And I think for all my data-driven peeps, the day of creative is upon us. We've got some time. I think we've got a year before the hammer drops and we end up having to really contend with the lack of data. But now's the time to get good at it. And for you creative peeps that have been left by the wayside, I mean, this is your moment. This is your real opportunity to step in and say, hey, this is where you get to shine. We used to cheat. We would cheat because you can get so granular and so myopic with your targeting. It almost doesn't matter if you're creative sterile because you know exactly who it is that you're going for. It's not true anymore. Now you're kind of shouting at the crowd again. And the way to get the individual's attention within the crowd is hyper focused, hyper quality creative. So it's time to get good at creative. And it's not something that I'm great at, but I'm actually kind of excited by that too, because it means that it's something that I get to turn into a study, and then you get to kind of watch me learn. And I sometimes that's the best way to learn anything, is to have to teach it. So I don't know. I'm excited about this. I'll include a link to that article in the description of this video. I hope this was helpful and valuable. As always, we shoot a video every day. Don't forget to subscribe. Subscriber base is blowing up now, which is really cool. So I appreciate all y'all that are subscribing and commenting, engaging. We love y'all. We love the community, and I'll see you next time.